All right. Well, so thanks for starting with some of the housekeeping there, Dave. Definitely want to keep this an open conversation, and we'll get started here in just a second. Right off the bat, thank you everyone for jumping in. I know everybody's kind of getting back to normal, which is great. But there's still an element of webinar fatigue and Zoom fatigue and all that kind of jazz. So we're really going to do our best to keep that light and easy to follow and entertaining for everyone to have a really good time with yet another webinar. This one happens to be super, super, super important. We actually had another webinar scheduled for this time, but with the massive increase in ransomware attacks, we had to call an audible, an emergency swap and jump in and try to share some information on ransomware. So that's the topic of today, which is probably why you're all here. So I'm Sam Sailors with Secure Smart Office. I'm the president here. Here with Dave Tuckman from Secure Smart Office. We'll do a little bit of introduction to start out, and then we'll jump right into the topic. And again, questions in chat. Oh, please do keep the chat bar open. I will be dropping in some links and some information as we carry through this that we think will be very valuable for everyone in attendance.
Yeah, and Jordan, I believe we're going to be recording this. So if anybody does have an issue with that, please be aware. And the reason for recording it is so we can share it later. And you're more than welcome to go back and watch a rebroadcast of it. We don't want anybody to be uncomfortable.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Hey, real quick, Sam, before you want to let everybody know about, there are some, there are some slides in here where we've got some questions baked into the presentation. And Sam, tell the audience what they'll win by being the correct answer of the question.
Gift cards. Everyone loves gift cards. And we know that it's a little bit hard to find this very specific item that everybody will enjoy, but this will allow you to search Amazon to your heart's content and find something that means something to you. So you'll keep an eye out for quiz time. Use the chat to throw out your answer. And I think we're doing this time the first correct answer in the chat wins the gift cards as we go through?
Yes, that sounds great. Yeah, and for anybody interested in at the end of this, if you're interested in an ESET demo, we'll drop the link where you can fill out the form for it. And ESET is kind enough to be offering a $50 Amazon gift card for anybody that does want to go through a demo. And it's no pressure. It's just to share with how the technology works and let you make the best decisions for yourself. But those are available, and we'll also be offering complimentary vulnerability assessments that we've been putting together. So if you are with an organization and you want to get a good summary snapshot of where you're at based on what we're talking about, please fill the form out as well. I think we just had a question there.
Oh, on students. Jordan or Sam, anybody want to jump in on?
Do you still have stuff in your desk at work? Let me know. Oh my God.
We'll get back to you, Jimmy, on that one. Just keep an eye out on the chat, and we'll have someone from ESET answer that for you as we move forward.
Yeah, and Jimmy, if I believe we can definitely set up a demo to share with you the technology, how it works, and all of that. I just don't know if it would be eligible for the gift card. but we'll follow up and work to help you out best we can either way. Appreciate you being here, man. Thanks. So, okay, go ahead and jumping in. These have been, we do these quarterly with ESET, and like Sam said, rotating in the topics that are the kind of most pressing ones at the time. So this is our first season. This is episode 4, and we are covering ransomware and how impactful it has become on organizations and really supply chains, and just how some people are getting through some things, even if they weren't the one that was directly impacted by it. If I click here, Sam, you want to go through these, or you know?
Yeah, here are today's speakers. So again, this has been in collaboration for Secure 2021 with Secure Smart Office and ESET. And today our speakers are Dave Tuckman, Daniel Schweer, and Sam. Sam, I'm going to let you try on your last name there, but we've got ESET Sam, and then I'm SSO Sam. So Dave, you want to just introduce yourself super fast, and then we'll move on to Daniel and Sam?
Yeah, sure. Dave Tuckman. I am with Sam at Secure Smart Office, and I'm the engineering director. So anything that we build or deliver to clients and support them, that goes through me and becomes my primary responsibilities here.
Awesome.
Daniel.
Hey there, everyone. I'm Daniel. I'm with ESET. I've been with ESET for about a decade at this point. Pretty much a product specialist. Any kind of features, licensing needs, anything like that, I'm happy to discuss.
Cool. Thanks, Daniel. And Sam.
Yes. Hey, guys. I'm Sam Sangmonivon. You can call me Sam S. I've been with the ESET for about the same time as Daniel, over a decade. So I'm the sales engineer. If you need help with the ESET solution, if you want to know more about the product solutions, let me know. I can always set up a call, and I can also help you deploy it. But I'm just pretty much your resident engineer.
Awesome. And to just give some context to who Secure Smart is and what we call SSO, we are a San Diego-based secured IT company. We provide IT services with security baked into them, as well as working with other companies that may have in-house IT or another IT provider that they're happy with, and we will work with that resource to provide security to the organization. Between all of us here, it's decades of experience in both security and IT. We partner with some awesome organizations such as ESET, which very happy with and grateful to have the opportunity. And our core target market are small, mid-sized organizations, and by small, it can be as little as 1 person up to about 300. We do have some very small individuals or small home-based organizations that are either very concerned about the risks that are out there, or they have some sort of regulatory requirement like a CMMC or HIPAA that they have to adhere to. Below all the pretty pictures are the different certifications that we have as an organization. We're just a very big advocate of continued education, so we can provide the best resources and be as knowledgeable as possible as we can.
I'll take this over on the site. ESET's been an innovator in the cybersecurity industry for over 30 years. We protect over 110 million users across 200 plus countries. We do have offices in 22 countries worldwide, but our North American headquarters is also here in San Diego, California. Of our 1,600 or so employees, more than a third are in R&D, which really allows us to stay continuously evolving and creating new technologies to stay ahead of malicious authors. On the local front, we really take a community-forward approach promoting security education. Over the years, we've been involved with multiple foundations, even linking with the San Diego Police Department to host cyber boot camps for schools and scout groups. All this is really done with the goal of building a safer technology environment for everyone.
You want to touch on We Live Security real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got We Live Security. It's our online blog. We've continually posting just current events, news, things that we think that people should be aware of, pertinent details to the industry, threats. It's a great resource to just kind of keep yourself abreast of what's going on.
Yeah, and it's excellent for, like you said, that's where a lot of research gets published and shared with the community at large. Okay, so if we jump in and just to real quick to understand what ransomware is, if anybody isn't familiar, it's malware that gets installed on a computer, and it has evolved into really having two things that it can do. The first one is when it gets in there, it will give the attacker access to your data, which they a lot of times now will essentially grab a copy of the data before doing anything. So they have that as additional leverage against who is attacked. And then once they feel that they have pulled enough information out of your organization, they will encrypt all of the files and all of the data that your organization has, making it completely inaccessible to you. And they will make it available. They will say that it is now available if you pay a certain amount of ransom, hence ransomware. And what we have been seeing is it's kind of a double threat of you pay the ransom to hopefully get the key back to unencrypt your data and to have them not share the data that they have taken and make it available on the dark web or in other ways. The screenshot that you see there is from one type of ransomware where once you're infected, that's what your screen will look like. And it will give you instructions on what happened, how to recover, and where to go from there. That's what it looks like. And if it happens to you, that is what it feels like. Like I said, if you guys got any questions, just pop them in the chat. Oh, it's quiz time.
All right, quiz time. What was the year and name of the first documented ransomware attack? Is it A, 1989 AIDS Trojan, 87 Jerusalem, 2013 CryptoLocker, or 1984 Melissa?
We have a couple submissions. We got a D, couple B's, A.
All right, we got Chino sitting in there. Correct answer is A. 1989 AIDS Trojan.
Yeah, and this goes back to pre-internet. So it was actually a guy that sent out some 5 1/4-inch floppy disks that you'll probably have to Google to see what those look like. And that's how it initially got distributed. So cool. Nathan is our winner. Hey, Nathan, good to see you here. Thanks, man. Okay. So to help understand what the cost of a breach to an organization is, there is a link down here. Sam's got it and he'll share it in the chat, but this is a report that IBM puts out, and it gets into it's a wealth of information if you're interested in this stuff, and it goes into what the overall cost is, and they break it down into 4 categories where it will have an impact to an organization, time-wise, cost-wise, and resource-wise. And those are broken down into when you detect it, once you've detected it, the steps that you go through to notify your customers, the public, if you're involved in like HIPAA or something, there's going to be regulatory authorities that you need to share what happened with. A loss of business, whether you were down or perhaps it's an impact on your reputation. And then the 4th is as you bounce back from having been impacted by this, all of the resources that go to a post-incident response. And if you take a look at that report, they did interview 524 organizations, 3,200 people, 17 countries and industries. So it's pretty broad, and it can give you a good, a much better understanding. So we want to share that with you. This slide here is designed to show what some of the statistics of ransomware were at the end of 2019. And at that time, it had a potential cost of a cumulative cost of $7.5 billion. And keep in mind, when we talk about 2019, that was before the pandemic and before a huge migration to hybrid work, remote work, and everything like that. But at the time, hospitals and medical facilities were being attacked, and the quote from this person was actually saying the fact that there were no confirmed ransomware related human deaths in 2019 is simply due to good luck. And so, but that again is pre-pandemic, and since the pandemic, a couple of examples to show how broad this has become. Perfect one is the Colonial Pipeline. We're fortunate that we're in San Diego. So we're on the West Coast, and we were not impacted by this, but this brought fuel delivery to all of those states literally to a halt for about a week. It was that disruptive. So while Colonial Pipeline was the one that got hit, you can kind of see how it trickled into any company that they provided resources to, all the way to their the end customers that those companies would be providing service to. So it was very, very disruptive, and kind of like on the health thing, or the life thing, we're just fortunate we were on the left coast when this one happened. The next example that we have is from Kaseya. To AM with Kaseya. For those of you that aren't familiar, Kaseya makes a software solution that IT providers use, that they install on their end clients to do remote monitoring and management of the devices. So when the hackers were able to get into Kaseya, Kaseya was not their target. Their target was all of those IT companies' clients in turn, and it exploded rapidly to impacting. It's been publicly announced that it's about 1,500 different companies were impacted all over the world. That number's probably closer to double that. Maybe they're still counting, and CSA at the same time wants to kind of knock it down, make it not sound as bad. Sorry, I just saw Nathan's question. Do you guys think this has the potential to make a stock go up? Yes. Yeah, because you're dealing with brand reputation and overall what people, and actually, Nathan, if you want to take it another step, CSA was right on the verge of an IPO. And this will probably delay that IPO. So yeah, it definitely will have an impact trickling down into that. And to your next question there, the NSA is probably doing that. If anyone's tracking the trades in tandem. I'm not really seeing it in public knowledge. But yeah, there's I'm sure there's some stuff that's not in the headlines happening. So moving on from examples, we wanted to share with you guys some resources. The federal government, one of its agencies is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Its acronym is CISA. Sam, if you want to drop that link in there, it's bad enough that CISA has put together a ransomware guide that can help walk organizations through what to look for, how to prepare, things like that. This is if you're kind of a do-it-yourselfer. They are trying to provide some resources. That's one available. Another one is NIST. The National Institute of Standards and Technology. This is the organization that puts together all the publications for how cybersecurity is supposed to be implemented across federal and governmental agencies on how they're supposed to harden systems, manage data, things like that. And they're putting together a draft right now of what will be a ransomware risk management framework. So if you're interested, you can go, and Sam, I think we got the link for that one too, if you want to see what it looks like in a draft mode.
You have it.
Awesome. And then the third resource, and this link I think we've got available for everybody as well, but Gartner put together a report, and another nonprofit organization called ISC Squared put together a blog article about it that walks you through 6 different steps that you would want to go through to help prepare and protect your organization against the vulnerability of being impacted by ransomware.
Yep, I just dropped that in there as well.
Okay, cool, thanks. Quiz time.
Quiz time. All right. If you pay the ransom, what are the odds you will receive the key to successfully restore your data? Is it A, 27%, B, 57%, C, 23%, or D, 14%? And let's see, it looks like, John, you were correct. First one on there was C, 23%.
Yeah, so that means that you got a less, that even, so if you get hit by ransomware and you turn around and pay the ransom, you got a less than 1 in 4 chance that they're going to actually give you the key. You got to remember you're dealing with criminals. So that, what is the saying, Sam? An ounce of prevention
Is better than a pound of cure.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
I got you.
Yes. Okay, cool. Well, good. Good job, John. Okay, at this point, I kind of want to hand the microphone over to our friends at ESET so they can go over some of the solutions that they put together based on all the research and knowledge that they have on this topic.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So taking a look just about ransomware in particular and how ESET can help. We've got a couple of technologies that we're going to talk about today. So let's take a look at the next slide here, Dave. Our technology is really based around three interrelated pillars. We've got high detection, where there's accuracy on this slide, high performance, and low false positives. Our aim is really to catch everything possible while using up minimal computing power and not wrongly flagging things as threats, which shouldn't be, as that can eat up personal time resources. Quick note about the bottom of this slide here. When evaluating different security solutions metrics, we always recommend getting feedback from unbiased third-party testing agency. It's really a great way to get a sense of the long-term efficacy of a solution. And ESET has been submitting and getting tested by these agencies since 1992. Next slide for me, Dave.
Sure.
Yep, so these are the solutions we're going to spend a little bit of time touching on. Our main endpoint security suite, our encryption offerings, multi-factor authentication. We've also got cloud sandboxing security, as well as end user training. And for the next slide, Dave, an easy really way to understand ESET's technology is kind of take a look at a house. Your house doesn't really have a single point of failure. You've got locks, fire alarms, smoke detectors, motion sensors, etc. Similarly, ESET takes a layered approach to security. We can liken things like encryption to a floor safe, keeping your valuables, or in this case, company data, secure. You've got two-factor authentication that might be an extra lock, a deadbolt, that kind of thing, just added layers. Or compare cybersecurity awareness training to teaching your kids not to leave the front door wide open when they leave the house, which I'm sure a lot of IT professionals might agree is a pretty dead-on analogy for some of their users' behavior. Moving on to the next slide, I'll tag in our engineer, Sam, to talk a little bit more in depth about some of these technologies.
Great, thanks, Daniel. So just to expand on Daniel's comment regarding ESET technology, here is a quick snapshot of the ESET endpoint protection lifecycle. So it's really important to understand that ESET protects against malware throughout the entire lifecycle. That is before execution, during execution, and also after execution. This is a very important component because malware sometimes it looks like it could be completely benign, where it's not safe, or where it's like it doesn't look like it's malicious, but in reality it's actually malicious. Or it could be where it's using encryption technology where you can't decipher exactly what's going to do. So as you can see that ESET has a multi-layer approach when we do our protection. So next. And so one of the things that we have is we have what is called ESET secure authentication. Again, I'll go through some of the cool technologies that we have to utilize. That way you can ensure that all your data is protected. And one of them is going to be this secure authentication process here. Next. So secure authentication, this is really an easy to use and powerful MFA solution that will protect your organizations from weak passwords and also unauthorized access to your company data, as well as locally, whether it's locally in your environment or whether it's in the cloud. It utilizes OTP, which can be generated from the ESET mobile app. The setup is pretty quick and simple. You could be up in a matter of minutes. This also includes the ability to self-enroll your users to the process. That way they can be set with two-factor right away. The two-factor is designed to protect VPN access, Windows login, remote access, as well as OW access. So it's really easy to use for employees and to help really comply with any data regulations that you may have, like HIPAA or CCPA. Again, this will allow you to add another layer of security, making sure that you are protecting your sensitive data within your company. So next. And so ESET full disk encryption here, this is one of our other cool technologies that's built into the solution. So ESET full disk encryption is really an add-on feature that is native to the ESET management console. And you can hit next there, Dave. So its main functionality is full disk encryption. So this will provide additional layer of security at the pre-boot. So during the pre-boot process, the user will need to enter their encryption password first before they can enter their domain credentials. So the cool thing about this is that this is all being managed by the ESET management server, where you can deploy, you can configure, you can set password policies to it. Say if you wanted to make the password a little more complex, the users can create a password that's really complex. If the user did forget their password, you can go to the management server, you can do a recovery. That way they can get back in the system. Another cool aspect about this is that if that laptop was also stolen and you had sensitive data in that system, you can actually do a remote block, and you can also invalidate the credentials, or you can pretty much wipe out the password, ensuring that all that data on that system is protected, all that data is encrypted. We are using AES-256 encryption technology. So again, this is the highest standard out there. And if you have a need for Mac OS X, we do support that as well. Next. So ESET Diamond Threat Defense, this is one of our newest technology, and by far, this is one of my favorite technologies. I've been with ESET for over a decade, and I've seen how the company evolved, and this is just one of the latest cool technologies that we have. But the way this technology works is that this will sit on top of the ESET endpoint solution. So with if you deploy ESET, we'll have a security solution on your workstation, scan that content, make sure it's not a threat. And sometimes, that may not be sufficient. So we've created this technology called ESET Diamond Threat Defense. And the way this works is that, again, this works in conjunction with the ESET endpoint. And the way this works is that when we come across an application and the internal engine doesn't know what the application would do, we can actually take that application that we think that's suspicious, hold it in quarantine, submit it to the cloud, and then analyze it in the cloud. So when that file application gets submitted to the cloud, what we'll do is we'll use our technologies. We have a few machine learning algorithms that will scan it. It's going to be neural networks, classification algorithms, and also deep introspection model. They'll scan that application first, and then what we'll do is we'll execute that application in real time in real OS to see exactly what will happen to VM in the cloud. So if we set a VM get encrypted or trying to make unwanted connection, we could definitely pinpoint that this application is malicious. At that point, what we'll do is we'll then send that information back to the corporate environment and say, yes, this application that you're trying to execute is malicious. Go ahead and quarantine this application, but also notify all the other workstation that has ESET installed with the ESET Diamond Threat Defense. So this is one of the latest cool technology that we just implemented, and it's really an easy process to implement. There's really not much that you need to do. All you need to do is make sure that you have the ESET product installed, and then all you have to do is activate the product. Next. So the ESET Diamond Threat Defense, so this also covers all your Windows endpoints from Windows workstations to Windows servers. It also includes a behavioral and analysis report, so that way you can see exactly what the malware is trying to do. And of course, all the settings managed via the policy. So if you do want to make changes to the system, if you do want to, let's say, if you have some proprietary information that you can't submit it to the cloud, we can definitely create exclusions for those. That way, we don't take anything that you don't want. And another cool thing about this is that the sandboxing technology, it's pretty fast. It happens within less than 5 minutes. So while the application is being analyzed in the cloud, the application is actually placed in hold until the analysis is done. And then generally about less than 5 minutes, you should get a result returned back from the cloud sandbox. If it's safe, then you can run it. If it's malicious, then it'll be quarantined. So while the data is being submitted to the cloud, of course, we'll notify the user saying that this file is inaccessible and being analyzed by the cloud sandboxing. And if you were to have, let's say, a on-prem machine server and you wanted to protect that, this also works with the mail security product that scans your on-prem Exchange server. So if you're getting incoming email through your Exchange, if you do have ESET mail security, we'll scan that mail content at the transport layer, making sure that's not a threat. If somehow that engine determines it doesn't know what the application would do, that's where we could submit it to the cloud sandboxing analysis, open that email in the cloud sandbox, and then see exactly what will happen within the sandbox technology. Next. So cybersecurity, this is cybersecurity awareness training, and so having a great security solution isn't enough these days. You know, in today's environment, social engineering attacks are always increasing, and really the weakest link is just going to be the human behind the keyboard, and the attackers know this, so they're going to always find a way to exploit and trick the user in getting in the system. So with that, you know, with our expertise, we've been around for about over 30 years now. So we've created this cyber awareness training that is a SaaS model. So that way you don't have to install anything. So it's designed to educate your workforce as well as you as your employees on how to be safe, on what to look out for when you're getting phished, and also look out for scams, and also just to really understand the common best practice of just how to be safe overall. So if you do complete the course, you will get a certificate of completion. That way you could use for any insurance policies. Just some stats here. So why would customer need this? So nearly 1/3 of all data breaches occurred in 2008 involved phishing, and more than 90% of those were via email. And you know, on average, there's about $4 million of average cost when a data breach does occur. So the ECAT here, also known as ESET Cybersecurity Awareness Training, this was developed by our ESET research and educators. So this is a comprehensive online course which takes less than 9 minutes to complete. It's really an interactive and gamified approach, so that way the user won't be bored. They'll run through the scenarios, they'll answer some questions, and we'll play some video games within the environment. So this will cover topics on threats, social engineering, passwords, web and email protection. And the cool thing about this is that at the end of the day, it also comes with a phishing simulator. So if you wanted to, let's say, create your own phishing or use the built-in utility, you can actually spear phish your users to see how well they retain that information. So if you sent them a phishing email and they click on the link, you can have them where, of course, they'll be notified that they failed the test, and they can be automatically re-rolled into the course, or of course, you know, you can automatically flag them, and you can pretty much disconnect them from the network. So that's another cool thing about this, that it comes with a phishing utility that's fully customizable, that you can spear phish your employees.
And one thing, Sam, that's kind of cool to share with everybody is ESET does offer the cybersecurity awareness training in quote unquote 2 flavors. And one is the, excuse me, the version that we do sell and provide to businesses, so you get the certificate of completion and all of that for compliance reasons. But for anybody interested in just wanting to self-improve themselves, there is a version of it available online at no cost.
Mm-hmm.
That you can take care of, that you can take advantage of. So if you do visit the website, that's available for you. With you know, is like someone was asking about as a student, those resources, that resource is available for you as well. Oh,
Quiz time. If you pay the ransom. Oh wait, we already did this one. Oh no, never mind. If you pay the ransom, what are the odds you will be hacked again by the same group that initially attacked you? Is it A, 25%, B, 47%, C, 82%, or D, 73%? Whoa. Let's see, who was the first one to get that right? Well, the answer is D. So good job. Yay.
I think Paul was our winner.
Thank you, Paul.
Good job, man. Yeah. Okay, and that wraps up what we wanted to cover, at least as far as content goes for the webinar itself. Our next one, our next event, and Sam, if you want to drop the link in there. Oh, thank you. is will be on October 12th, and what we'll be talking about is why a single layer of protection is not enough. Sam touched on it a bit in how one solution can protect the endpoints, and then another solution does some additional scanning, filtering, and protecting in the cloud before it hits the endpoint. But we'll also be talking about how some of the services can additionally protect and back up Microsoft 365 solutions. So we do invite everybody to that event, and hope you can attend. Moving on from that, we've got some time for questions. So if you have any, feel free to put them in there. There was one earlier when I scrolled back up.
Yeah, whether it was actually legal or illegal to pay a ransomware fine. At some point, I believe there was some legislation that either was being put up or passed. I think that may have been where the question came from.
Yeah, and it's an excellent question. I don't know if it has become law or not. There's talk about how the government's official position is do not pay the ransom. And that's partially because of you got such a low chance of getting your data back and such a high chance of getting attacked again, because we are dealing with criminals here in this in what's happening. So I know that's the position, and I know that, you know, even before there was ransomware, our government had the position of don't negotiate with terrorists. But I don't know if it's officially become law yet or not. If anybody else does, I'll stop talking.
All right. Let's see here. Ooh, I wish we could hit them back as a defense tactic, kind of more of the offensive. Thank you, Nathan, for your question. Unfortunately, that becomes very, very challenging and also illegal. One of the issues that we see often is that a hack may look like, even if you can dig in and figure out, you know, where the source was, oftentimes hackers are sophisticated enough to take over a machine in a random network in a random place, you know, your grandmother's machine, and actually launch the ransomware or an attack from there. So it becomes very, very complicated when you try to go on the offensive or, you know, reactionary standpoints, because you don't 100% know who you're going after, and that becomes a major issue.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Another topic that comes up from that, there's a couple. There's a bit of a rabbit hole you kind of go down in this, because when we talk about us being attacked or us attacking somebody else, it's a bit asymmetric of a landscape, meaning countries like Russia and China are not going to have the same level of openness in their internet that you know, Western countries have. So it's a little bit harder in that regard. And another thing that you take into consideration, if you think of like the Stuxnet malware that got released in the Iranian nuclear facility, basically what happens is they've got their tactics, we have ours. But as soon as and our tactics, the ones that we haven't used, we still have the element of surprise with them. And so if we just turn around and go after somebody and use one of those, it's kind of taking one of the bullets out of the chamber that we may need at another time. So it gets a little, so the shorter answer, I suppose, would be know but I guarantee you there are things that are happening behind the scenes that don't make it in the news that we don't know about. There was actually an article this morning where I think it was Revel, which is the ones behind the Colonial Pipeline attack. As of 1 a.m. this morning, all of their websites got shut down. Nobody knows why yet, whether it was them doing it or us or even Putin saying, hey, let's at least make it look like we care and that we're listening. So I hope that helps. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that one?
Well, just to piggyback on that, it's definitely not advised to pay any ransomware in my experience, because again, as Dave mentioned, you're not guaranteed to get that data back at all. So it's probably best to hopefully that you have a backup, and hopefully, you know, you could try to clean the system from whatever's on the system. But again, it's still, you know, when you're infected, it's really still going to be hard to clean whatever's on the system, because they like to hide in different places, whether it's the memory or whether it's Windows registry. It's going to be really challenging. So in most cases, what I've seen with customers is that normally they restore from backup. So making sure that you do have a good backup in place definitely helps, but also just making sure you have a good security solution in place to make sure that you are initially protected from these attacks.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. And if you look at it from a business perspective, which is kind of what we wanted to make part of the message here, is that if a company is ready to acknowledge that these risks exist, it would be less expensive to be proactive and have yourself in a position where you're better protected up front versus then having to react. What do we got here? Why is nobody saying that if private business don't make it a priority, they're essentially making everyone vulnerable? Yeah, I
Huge.
yeah, it's an excellent point, and I think that there's different elements that kind of comprise that. One is, excuse me, is that when you're the government, you've got, or you're in a certain organization that has regulation, it requires your business to adhere to those, or the penalty for not adhering gets exponentially higher. When there's other businesses, and this is a lot of what we deal with in SSO, are these small businesses that aren't necessarily bound by those regulations. So there's an element of ignorance because they're not told that they need to be aware. There's also an element of, how can I say it, hoping it hits your neighbor before it hits you. Just basically people, I think it's a combination of, we always say that the reason somebody doesn't make a decision is because they're not sufficiently aware of the issue, or that they're sufficiently aware but not sufficiently disturbed enough to do something about it. And a lot of private businesses fall into that realm. Yes, there are free trials available. Sam, do you have the link that somebody would fill out the form to request?
Here.
Yeah, in this link that Sam will share, go ahead and fill that out, and we'll I'll follow up. It's going to say, do you want a demo? But we'll follow up with you. And if you're more interested in a trial, we'll be happy to share one with you and can answer questions and provide some support service through that. Sam, as far as ESET, Sam, can you share what's the best way for somebody to go in accessing support?
For support-wise, so we have free support in San Diego. If you want to call us from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific, we're always here. We also have a website that you can access our support team. It's helpus.eset.com. Again, we'll post this in the chat message. That way, if you do need, if you have any questions about the product or need help with the product, you can always reach out to our support team and they'll be able to assist you.
Awesome. Yeah, and to Nathan's point there, that if cybersecurity was a car, are we basically in the realm of 1920? And I think that's true. There was actually another report I read this morning, which is pretty disturbing, that if you have private business, there's venture capitalists, and you hope that you have an idea for your business and somebody sees it and wants to provide you with some capital to help take it to the next level. The article I was reading today is there are now venture capitalists for this type of criminal activity. So if you are somebody wanting to do ransomware or do this illicit type of stuff, the organizations that have been doing it are now leveraging based on the money that they've received to help finance another next generation. And this is all just still really evolving before our eyes. Do we have any other questions? Sam, were there a couple that any that came in? We got a few more minutes. If there were any that came in,
sure. Yeah, I've got a couple.
During this.
Yeah, during the registration.
Yeah.
The first one I have is, why is ransomware so popular?
Because it's successful.
Yeah, it's gonna be based on success rate, and it's really easy to trick the users. It's pretty much a hostage situation. They're just taking your data, and if you don't pay, then you don't get your data.
Yeah, and if it wasn't as profitable as it was, the criminals would be looking for another threat vector, and so. That's why it works. I remember, I forget the old criminal's name, but the guy that they asked why he robbed banks, and he said because that's where the money is.
Yep. Unfortunately, that is true. We had another line. What are the more common ways computers networks become infected with ransomware?
You want to hit that one, Sam?
Yeah, what's the question again?
What are the more common ways that computers and networks become infected with ransomware?
Still, it's going to be email. Email is going to be one of the main, channels of getting infected. A lot of times, what I've seen these days is also I've seen a lot of PUAs, what is called potentially unwanted applications. So if you are on the internet and you surf the internet and you click on a link, a lot of times you may get what is called a pop-up, and a lot of times they say, "Hey, you're infected. Download this application. Download this cleaner." Believe it or not, people will fall for that, and so they'll install that application thinking this application is going to clean their system, make their system a little faster. But in reality, the application is malicious, and it's going to pretty much slow the system down, or in most cases, it can call additional malware, which then can cause you to get additional malware for such as ransomware. So, it's going to be social engineering is going to be a key factor in this, but the main channel is still going to be email.
Yeah, it's where the human is involved.
The next one is, what do you do if you believe that you may be infected?
Well, just from from an IT's perspective, first and foremost is that you definitely want to disconnect that system from the network. You want to isolate as much as possible, and then you want to make sure that you are having a secure solution to scan that content, scan that disk to make sure nothing on that system is malicious. And then at that point, you may want just to do some forensics. You want to investigate. What would be the potential cause on how that application came through, and you can look at some logs. You can see, is it coming from the web? Is it coming from an application? Is it coming from a USB? But the first step would be really just to isolate that system from the network, so that way whatever's on that system doesn't spread out to any other components in your environment.
Yeah, it's containment. Prevent it from spreading as best you can, and then you're going to go back through and evaluate what did get impacted and how you can work back from there. If you are an organization that took the proper steps in the beginning, then you're okay, and you have backups that you can restore from, or perhaps even some of the other layers of protection can help prevent it from getting, segmenting out a network. So if that one person is in the sales department that gets hit by it, but everybody that's in accounting can is on a separate network, they would be better protected from that as well. What do we have here? Yes, like Paul said, it is a growth industry. And it's going to be this way for a while. But before our government and probably more a collaboration of Western nations come up with a more solid approach on how to address this. Jimmy, what would be an estimated cost for air gap backups for a company as big as dude, I honestly don't know. It's an excellent question, but what would happen is we'd have to have a better understanding of their network, what the requirements are to put that in. You essentially follow the model of what would be proper procedures to protect yourself and apply that framework or model to their existing infrastructure, and going through that exercise is where you can start to put a dollar amount behind it, but it probably would have been a lot less than what they initially were being told to pay in ransom and what they ended up did paying in ransom. I hope that helps.
Cool. We have two more from, I know we're almost out of time, but we've got two more questions from the registration. The first one is, as a small business owner who isn't and doesn't want to be technical, where does someone begin to protect themselves? Which kind of probably aligns a lot with some of the technologies and services we've been talking through. But if there's any additional information you guys want to share on that?
The only thing I would share is if you're really just starting and you don't know, and you're a small business and you want to focus on your business, I would encourage you to just please fill out the request for a demo form, and we can work with you and provide you a complimentary assessment to let you know where you're at right now. And then from there, you can kind of better understand and prioritize what would be most appropriate next steps for you.
Cool. And then the last one says, are you saying that I may have already been infected but not realize it?
What a way to finish. It's possible. Yeah, I think I was in another group and we were talking about this, and you kind of want to look at who the threat actors are. And the two main ones are going to be Russia and China. Russia is proud to be a disruptor. They're the ones behind Colonial Pipeline. They're looking to disrupt activity, but what did happen to them was they weren't attacked and impacted on the same day. They were attacked. The hackers were in there for months. They pulled all the data out that they wanted. And then when there was nothing less of value, then they flipped the switch to launch the attack. China's less disruptive. They're more in it for the long haul of espionage. So we have seen where clients are impacted and didn't know because the attacker didn't want them to know. And there are ways that you can take steps to better understand what's happening in your network, even if it isn't as overt as getting that skull and crossbones on your screen. And if anybody else has anything they want to add, I'll stop.
I think we're good.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, once again, thank you everyone for jumping in. We love doing these types of events and webinars. We're really liking the in-person stuff, which will be starting up as soon as we're able. So we'll let everyone know as those start to progress. But seriously, thank you everyone for jumping in. Any final questions or remarks?
I just want to say thank you to everybody that attended and to everybody on the ESET side for your participation and helping make these available so we can kind of help get the word out as best as possible. So thank you.
Cool beans, yo.
Cool. Everybody have a great day.
You have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone.
No worries. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.